This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoy this critical thought, your daily discussion on game design. And be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can pitch future critical thought topics. Alright everybody, we got a good critical thought for you today. This is going to be a special one because not only is it going to be a supplemental to a post I have up on Game Wisdom, but this is actually going to directly lead into tomorrow's critical thought. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. For today's critical thought, I am once again going to probably get myself in trouble with people, as we're going to try and settle the gamer debate. The famous discussion of who's a gamer, who's not, what makes you one, stuff like that. And this is actually a more important topic than a lot of people may realize, because this also ties into consumers and who are and who aren't supporting the game industry as a whole. From my post, I talked about the idea that, in my mind, a gamer is someone who supports the game industry, and the terms gamer and consumer are essentially one and the same. And in the post, I proposed the idea of having a new metric to essentially analyze the industry with. And I base it off of the idea of retention. And for those of you who don't follow like free-to-play or social games, retention is a metric used to define how many people actually stick with a game. You can have an initial launch of 5 million people downloading your game on day one, but if only 100,000 stick around, your game's in deep trouble. And for me, I wanted to propose the idea of defining a gamer metric. And what I came up with is something like this. A gamer is someone who will financially support or buy 3 different games in the span of 6 months, and we can maybe even push that to a year. For me, I am definitely out of touch when it comes to the general consumer. And I try to do some quick Googling before this critical thought to see if there have been any actual metrics in terms of how many games does the average person buy in a year. And it only gave me annual totals for everyone. But the important idea is that someone who is a consumer or a gamer is someone who will buy multiple games and is supporting the industry. And this leads into some of the major differences and similarities the game industry has compared to other entertainment or other major mediums. When we talk about video games, there's a difference between someone who's a fan and someone who's a consumer or a gamer. A fan is someone who will support one and only one series or game. And this is akin to the car industry. As you know, the car industry is made up of several major automotive companies around the world. You have stuff like Nissan, Honda, Toyota. I'm not a car guy, so I'll leave you to insert your own here. And what that means is someone who buys literally nothing but Ford, all Ford parts, cars, trucks, you name it, they are supporting Ford. That money that they're giving is not going to end up with Honda or anyone else because they are supporting one company. This is different from football. Football, as we all know, or for us in the US, is owned and managed by the NFL. And as we know, there are teams all around the United States in each state. What that means is, of course, you have fans who support one team and one team only. I live in New Jersey, and I am deep in the heart of Eagles territory. And as we know, the Eagles fans typically are going to buy everything Eagles related. And they're not going to be buying, Dallas Cowboys or, again, insert your own football team here. But with that said, because the NFL essentially owns and licenses all the major teams, someone who buys nothing but Eagles merchandise is still supporting the NFL and football, much in the same way someone who only buys the Cowboys, and again, insert football team here as an example. But the video game industry, again, is more like the car industry in this case. Someone who only plays and spends money on one game is not really supporting the industry. They are supporting that specific title. And I know some of you are thinking this, so let's rip the bandage off right here. That means that I am lumping the people who would only play like a game like Call of Duty or Madden with the same people who play nothing but Candy Crush Saga, Minecraft, etc. Now, with that said, though, I want to ask a question to you folks. Do you know people who only play one core game? I've heard, people try to make like the stereotype Call of Duty gamer or the Madden gamer who will just play that one game day in, day out for an entire year until the next one, but I don't know anyone personally. So, for those of you watching, do you know anyone, or are you someone who will just play one game, year in, year round, and all that? Now, when it comes to the mobile market and why I want to talk more about a hero for this critical thought, what we've seen over the last few years is when it comes to mobile games and people citing the greatness of, the big sales of Clash of Clans, Farmville, Candy Crush, and so on, is that they've built a sizable fan base. However, that is different from a sizable consumer base. And this is why, a few minutes ago, when I said about the gamer metric, that it's about supporting multiple games, not just one. And the problem that we see, and what has made the mobile market such a tough nut to crack for new gamers, for new developers, is that these games that are bringing in the big bucks, again, your Farmvilles, Kim Kardashian, and so on, is that they have built up a huge fan base. Again, we are talking about hundreds of thousands and, in some cases, millions of people playing these games, and playing these games exclusively. And again, the problem with that is this money is not really supporting the mobile market. It's supporting these specific games. Someone who is only playing Candy Crush Saga or is giving King, $500 a month, that money is not going to find its way to games like Monument Valley, Hitman Go, and I'm sure those are just the big ones I know, but I'm sure there are probably other examples of high quality mobile games. And the problem, basically, it all wraps up into this issue of trying to break into the mobile market. You have the issues with discoverability and how the iOS stores are just dominated by, your Kings, your Farmville, or Zynga, etc. And for a new game, it's very easy to go up and then immediately disappear in a few hours. The other issue, it makes it harder to sell new designs. If everyone is hooked on Clash of Clans, your untested or unproven game design is going to be that much harder of a sale. And the final point is the fact that people who are hooked on one game, this is an actually interesting metric that I want to ask you folks. What is the likelihood or the chance that they're going to support another game either equal to or more than that previous game? If you have someone who just plays Farmville constantly and it's given Zynga $700, what's the chance they're going to move on to Clash of Clans, Kim Kardashian's Hollywood, Game of War, anything like that, and give that same amount of money? And I honestly don't know the answer to that, or if that's actually a metric being tracked. And this is the big problem, again, about treating fans as the same as gamers and consumers. Because a fan is not going to be supporting the industry. And that means they're not going to be interested in looking at other titles. And this leads to that problem of the fact that if everyone is just supporting one game, you can't just make a clone or make a game similar to that and expect to get those same numbers. This actually leads back into a video or a news piece I saw about I think it was like a year, maybe a little bit more than that, where it was during a mobile conference, and you had the guys, patting themselves on the back, and someone issued a statement saying, if you own more than 10 games on Steam, we don't care about you, or you don't matter to us. And that really got on my nerves, and I made a post about that, and basically decrying and trying to debunk that. And their point was, if you're playing multiple games, it means you're not spending money on one game. You're not focusing on one game. And that's what the mobile market, and specifically these mobile developers, wanted. They wanted to get you hooked on their title and get as much money out of you as they can. And then once you're out of money, they're going to move on to the next person. And the problem with that, again, is that's not supporting a market. That's supporting a game. And the thing about the video game industry and what makes it unique or different from other mediums is that for the most part, games are not in direct competition with each other. Yes, we only have so many hours and so many dollars to spend, but it's not like if I buy Call of Duty means I'm not interested in Dark Souls or Undertale or Stardew Valley and etc. Going back to our previous analogies, football and sports in general are built on preset rules or predefined rules. I know one football match is going to have the same rules as another, and so on. There's not going to be a NFL license or NFL back game that allows the players for one time to use wiffle bats to try and bat the football out of the air. But when it comes to video games, games provide different experiences. I've heard my family complain to me a few times about saying, why don't you get tired playing games all day? Because I'm playing multiple games a day. I don't just play Undertale. I'll play Minecraft for a little bit. Or if I'm playing Payday 2, I may switch to Killing Floor 2. Or to any number of other games. Again, there's so many games in my head right now that I'm basically having a lot going on. But the point is, because these games aren't in direct competition with each other, it allows them to shine and allows someone who's a gamer or a consumer to support multiple titles and, in process, support the industry. Now, with that said, of course, when you're playing these multiple games, even though we have games of similar designs and similar genres, there still can be made different enough. We can certainly say that Shadows of Mordor borrows elements from Batman and Assassin's Creed, but it does enough to stand out. This is where the idea that games are both a product and an art come into play. And it's the art that what distinguishes games from one another. This isn't a case where someone makes an Assassin's Creed game and then 5 other developers will make an Assassin's Creed-like game, or may just try and make a similar game in that Assassin's Creed universe. That's not the case. Now, as we've talked about over the last 12 minutes, that in my mind, a gamer is someone who will support multiple games. But there is one major exception to this rule. People who play games professionally, whether it is in the competitive atmosphere or for, like lately with speedrunners. When you're playing games at this level of skill, you pretty much have to dedicate yourself to that game. Someone who's a professional Street Fighter player is not someone who's going to only play the game for an hour or two a day, or 4 or 5 hours over a week. These are people who train and play constantly. And for them, they're operating at a different level compared to your general consumer. Now, to wrap up today's critical thought, I'm going to sort of tie in for tomorrow's. The risk of saying that you have a lot of fans is obviously different than saying you have a lot of consumers. And one of the things that we've been talking about, where a lot of people have been thinking in terms of the mobile market, is that if you only have fans, people who only support one game, it means you don't necessarily have a market. And this has been that major point that a lot of people have been feeling, that the mobile market is due for a crash or a restructuring at some point. And what ties into for tomorrow's post is this kind of discussion about who are your fans, who's buying your game, and is there an actual market to support this, ties right back into the MMO growth and crash of the early thousands. And that, my friends, is not only a topic too big to talk about for today, but we're going to be talking about that one tomorrow. So for right now, we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching today's Critical Thought. If you enjoy things, be sure to like and subscribe and all that. If you have a suggestion for a future Critical Thought, be sure to leave it below. Make sure to vote for the 1000 Let's Play if you haven't done so already. You have until the end of the week to get that going. But otherwise, I am Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games. If you haven't read my post talking more about things from the consumer or fan-base point of view, it will be linked below. But be sure to check back daily for more great content here on Game Wisdom, and of course on the Twitch stream. But until then, have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.